There's a specific kind of exhaustion that has no name. It doesn't come from physical labor. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic collapse. It lives quietly in your chest, a heaviness that makes the idea of leaving your house feel like preparing for war. You tell people you're an introvert. You say you prefer your own company. And those things might be true. But beneath those words is something deeper. Something you don't always say out loud. The world outside feels too loud, too demanding, too unpredictable. And home, your small, controlled space, has become the only place where you can breathe without performing. If you've ever canceled plans at the last minute and felt relief flood through you. If you've ever spent an entire weekend inside and felt more rested than guilty. If the thought of going out requires days of mental preparation, then you already know this truth. Your home isn't just a preference, it's a sanctuary. And maybe it's also a hiding place. Here's the paradox no one talks about. The thing that protects you can also imprison you. The same four walls that shield you from overwhelm can quietly become the boundaries of your entire world. The solitude that once felt like self-care starts to feel like isolation. And the safety you've built begins to whisper a darker question. Are you resting? Or are you running? This isn't about introversion. This is about something more ancient, more visceral. This is about a nervous system that learned the world isn't safe. About a mind that discovered people are unpredictable. About a heart that decided withdrawal was wiser than vulnerability. And now, years later, you've become an adult who loves staying home. Not just because it's comfortable, but because everywhere else feels like a threat you're too tired to face. When someone says they love staying home, we often imagine cozy blankets and chosen solitude. But for many, this preference is rooted in something psychologists call environmental hypersensitivity, a heightened neurological response to external stimuli that makes the world feel persistently overwhelming. Think of it like this. Most people walk through the world with a filter. Noise fades into background. Crowds become neutral. Social interactions require energy, but not excessive energy. But for you, there is no filter. Every conversation is louder. Every fluorescent light feels harsher. Every social obligation carries invisible weight. Your nervous system processes everything at maximum volume. And by the time you get home, you're not just tired, you're depleted. This is deeply connected to what's known as sensory processing sensitivity, a trait identified by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron. People with this trait have a more reactive central nervous system. They notice subtleties others miss. They feel emotions more intensely, their own and others. And they require significantly more recovery time after social or sensory exposure. But here's what makes this complicated. This sensitivity often isn't innate, it's trained. Many people who love staying home were once children who learned that the outside world wasn't safe. Not necessarily because of one traumatic event, but through 1,000 small moments of dysregulation. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic household where peace was rare. Maybe you were a highly perceptive child in an emotionally volatile environment, constantly scanning for danger. Maybe you were socially rejected, bullied, or misunderstood. And your brain made a logical conclusion. Outside is where pain happens. Inside is where I survive. This is what psychologists call avoidant attachment in spatial form. You're not avoiding people. You're avoiding the feeling of being unsafe in your own skin. And over time, your brain's default mode network, the neural system responsible for self-referential thinking and internal narrative, becomes hyperactive. You spend more time in your head than in the world. Your inner life becomes richer, deeper, more vivid than external reality. You become someone who doesn't just prefer solitude. You require it to feel like yourself. Carl Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. And maybe that's the unspoken truth you're not hiding from the world. You're protecting something fragile inside you that the world never learned how to hold. But let's talk about what this costs you. Because staying home isn't just a preference, it's a strategy. And every strategy has a price. The price is this: you are disappearing from your own life. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but slowly. Quietly. One declined invitation at a time. You tell yourself you're choosing rest, but beneath that, there's a deeper fear. The fear that if you go out, you'll be exposed, judged, misunderstood. The fear that you won't know what to say or how to act, or that you'll come home feeling worse than when you left. So you stay. And each time you stay, the world outside becomes a little more foreign, a little more threatening. The gap between who you are at home and who you'd need to be out there, it widens. A philosopher, Søren Kierkegaard, called this the sickness unto death. Not physical death, but the slow erasure of selfhood. The gradual withdrawal from life's possibilities until you exist only in the narrow space you've deemed safe. And here's the cruelest part. People don't see your struggle. To the outside world, you simply seem absent, flaky, antisocial. They don't see the invisible grief you carry. The grief of longing to connect but being too afraid. The grief of watching life happen through windows and screens. The grief of knowing you're capable of more, but feeling trapped behind a nervous system that won't let you forget every time the world hurt you. You've learned to be small, to take up less space, to need less, to expect less. And you've told yourself this is wisdom, maturity, self-awareness. But sometimes, late at night, you feel it, that ache, that restlessness. The part of you that knows you weren't meant to live this quietly, that remembers what it felt like to be curious, spontaneous, unguarded. That part of you is still there, waiting. So what does this look like in adulthood? You might be someone who, in relationships, struggles with intimacy because vulnerability requires letting someone into your sacred space, not just your home, but your internal world. You love deeply, but from a distance. In career, underperforms not because you lack talent, but because visibility feels dangerous. You avoid networking events. You don't advocate for yourself. You stay in roles that don't challenge you because challenge means exposure, and exposure means risk. In boundaries, you've built walls so high that even you can't climb out. You've confused isolation with independence. You've mistaken withdrawal for strength. And now, you don't know how to let people in without feeling like you're losing yourself. In identity, you've become a ghost in your own story. You watch other people live, through social media, through shows, through fantasy, while your own life remains unlived. You narrate existence instead of experiencing it. But here's what you need to understand. These aren't personality flaws. These are survival mechanisms. So how do you heal? By teaching your body that safety isn't just found in isolation. It can be found in connection too. This might look like practicing co-regulation, spending time with people who don't demand performance, who let you be silent, who understand that your presence is enough. Gradual exposure, not throwing yourself into chaos, but taking small steps outside your comfort zone. A walk, a coffee shop, a brief conversation, shadow work, examining the belief that you're safer alone, and questioning whether those beliefs are still true. Choosing softness over survival mode. Allowing yourself to rest without guilt. To acknowledge that you're not withdrawing from life, you're recovering so you can live. You don't have to be extroverted. You don't have to love crowds. But you do have to stop letting fear make all your decisions. The goal isn't to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. And just maybe, home will stop feeling like the only safe place in the world. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe, because we're going deeper into the psychology of who we are and why we survive the way we do.